you go. He's here.
I'm here. How are you?
Well, I'm good. 2025.
2025.
Everything is still working.
Just other than democracy and the rule of law.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
We all need luck,
We're
man.
going to need it. Yep.
We're going to need it. We're going to need it. So happy New Year. Happy 2025.
Yeah, likewise, everybody.
Yeah, happy 2025, everybody. It's a game of numbers to start this show, actually. We're recording this on the 22nd of January, 2025. And this will be released on the 28th of January, 2025. And you know why, Alex.
Yes, I do. I do. It's the anniversary of this little show.
A little show, right? On the January the 28th, 2015 was the date we released our first ever episode.
Wow. 10 years. My God.
Man, I would have never thought we would have lasted 10 years, man. Honestly.
Well, as individuals or as a show?
No, as a show. I mean, I thought we would go for a few good years, but not. Though we were pre-signed because we directly named the episode 00 something, 001. So now we're 144 is this one. So at least, there was a pre-signed. So actually, probably in the back of our heads, we've said, we probably got to hit 100 episodes at some point. Did we? No.
I can't imagine that we were. You know what? That's a good point. You did come up with that numbering structure very early on from the beginning.
Yeah, but it was more like as an homage to flight numbers,
sure.
Which was actually the first two episodes. I just said episode 001 or something like that. There was no music, nothing. By the way, guys,
yeah.
I mean, don't listen to it. These early episodes are dreadful. When I was editing heavily and I was really bad at it. At least there's one thing over 10 years is that I learned how to edit, even though I do not edit anymore. Almost nothing. Sometimes I edit a little bit, guys, when there's a sound issue. But yeah, I think we just started by saying, this is a layovers podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I was not saying podcast, I was podcast. I don't remember. Like I was a very Swiss tinge to the way of saying that word. I learned the word. That's another thing I learned just to say after. I think I started saying flight 003 in episode 3. But the fun bit, because I remember this, instead of saying flight 003, I say flight 002, and you correct me, say, Paul, no, it's 003. So I was already wrong.
Weren't we, maybe I'm making this up, but weren't there times where we did back-to-back episodes?
Yeah, we were recording back-to-back. You remember, I think once you even came at my previous home.
That's right.
Previous, actually. I installed my iMac in the middle of my living room. we were like next to each other.
Yeah.
We did, the sound was not great that day because we had no idea how to do that. Now, and I think the music, the intro music started in episode 007, which was a James Bond episode.
Ah.
Yeah, we were going so intricate. In the intro, was already announcing how long the episode would be. Like the flight time today would be like an hour and 25 minutes. Now the flight time would be like probably 5 hours and 20 minutes. And by the way, will be delayed. And so we never know when this episode will end, which is what we do now. We always end late now. Our episodes are way too long, probably. Anyway, let's do the music for again. Can I?
As we reach our cruising altitude, I'm going to turn off the passenger seatbelt sign for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and let's turn on those noise-canceling headphones.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the intro, the first
I got to
intro.
tell you, I had completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, I had to dig it up. I was like, come on, it's the only time I can do this. I'm going to dig up like this old stuff. I didn't put the entire one because it was me like pretending. I was so silly. We were pretending we're in a cockpit. I had created that voice. So supposedly, it was fun, obviously, right? So probably what we should say is thank you to all of the audience that stayed with us. Either you discovered us early, and we know of quite a few that have been listening since the start and multiple times over the catalog every time we were not releasing anything. Thank you also for the ones who came much later and maybe went back to the catalog or not. Again, as we said, do not go back to the early episode. They were really dire.
We did get some messages and comments saying, I've discovered you at episode 106 and I've gone back and listened to every single one. And we're both like, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my God. Why would you do that to yourself?
This is the third. I mean, we never had season, but this is probably the third iteration because we had like 3 logos, so 3 ways of introducing the show. This is more the kind of the laid back, anything goes type of. I think it's the one I have the most pleasure doing with you, Alex. We had higher numbers probably in 2019. We're very stable. Lots by the way, still lots of people listening. I'm every time I look at the stats, I see people. We were number 1 from I don't know, China to Mauritius to the Philippines, Australia, Germany, Korea, Brazil, the UAE, Poland, Switzerland, Norway, the UK, obviously the US, obviously Canada.
You've never been to Canada,
right?
Mark's doing well.
And so the one thing we had. I don't think it was a decision, but we had said we wanted to be a little bit global and not have of course, we both live in the UK, so it's always a little bit BA or London centric. But I think for that we succeeded because we've been number 1 and many, many, many times over in over 50 countries. So that's very nice. And we keep doing it, by the way. I think last time I checked, last episode, they were 13 countries upon release were number 1. So thank you, guys. Yeah, it's very, very, very kind. And of course, we made friends. Avgeek, Alex, Alexandra, Ed, Hakan, Mark. Mark, whenever you want to, you haven't come back to tell us. Are you writing a book, Mark? Because we need you.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I hope so.
I hope so too. Exactly. And of course, countless discussions with Avgeekery. With you've heard all the names, and sometimes I'm sorry because I keep repeating the same names over. This is not gatekeeping. If you are. Interacting with us, I will gladly say we don't do reviews and stuff anymore because we have so much to talk about. But and I want to say a special shout out to Paolo because he offered me this book, Concord by Mike Bannister.
Oh yeah, Mike Bannister, what a legend!
Yeah, so thank you, Paolo. Paolo who's been also a guest on this show. I mean, he's been my co-host when you were not here. So to all our guests and future guests, thank you as well. Future guests, I don't know how many there will be because we always promise it. We never do. Last but not least, a shout out to all the other podcasts in aviation because I checked. I didn't realize back then, but we were not the first ones, of course, to do aviation podcasting at all. There was a few legendary podcasts before us, but we spawned quite a trend because quite a lot actually, and some of them actually came to us and said, "You're the reason we started," and we're very glad you did because since we are more episodic now, once every 3 to 4 weeks. You guys deliver. So there's so many other podcasts. The more the merrier. Special shout out to Doug and Drew at The Next Trip because they've been very successful with our podcast. And I encourage you to listen to it. So some listen to us directly after the release. Some reserve it for a long flight. Michael Leppa always does that. And some use it to fall asleep. Bertrand, thank you for falling asleep to our latest episode.
There's quite a few people who told me that. I choose to take that as a compliment.
Exactly. ASMR for people. Yeah, we're white noise. I said we don't do reviews, but let's do one because you did not 1 but 2 reviews. Martin, so now you can, guys, if you're so inclined, on Spotify, there's a commenting section. So you can actually comment on each episode. If you're logged into Spotify, you can actually comment if you want. It's not mandatory, guys. We're not expecting anything, but Martin did. And he said that he loved every second of the episode, the one that we did about Ukraine and Nepal. You guys are still the absolute gold standard for aviation podcast. I don't know about that, but that's very kind. Yeah, exactly, right? He adds, having been to Ukraine pre-war and Nepal twice, I can relate to your stories so much. Wow. And then he adds, that's for you, nevertheless, in regards to Emirates weight limits for carry-on, that's for you, Alex, I have to protect them a bit despite working for an entirely different carrier. I believe he works for Swiss, though he's based in Germany. The overhead bins actually have weight limits, about 40 kilos on A320s, and it's the flight attendant's responsibility to ensure they are not exceeded. We agree, but that's not exactly what happened, right?
No, it's not. And far be it from me to get in the way of a flight attendant doing an already difficult job. But, I think I've learned a lot. I thought about that incident perhaps more than it deserves. And I think I got caught up in a process that was designed to catch most instances, and we were an exception, I think, given that it was within the weight limit. It was a number of items thing, or
Yeah.
But no, he's right. He's right. The flight attendants have a tough job, along with being the arbiters of cabin baggage and, aircraft structure weight limits. They have a really difficult job, and I would never want to put pressure on them.
Yeah, they're also hurting kids, basically, because it always looks like a school trip. Yeah, people.
I tell you what, there is so I just got back from a short trip to Portugal last week, and I remarked to Megan for the umpteenth time, there is something about airports and air travel that just brings out the feral aspect of our personalities. All decorum seems to evaporate. And I understand why, but it was like you're watching people directly and indirectly and thinking, what has happened to us in this strange environment?
It's true. It's true. It's getting slightly worse, but I'm not. Yeah, no, because if I say that, I become the old person saying it was better before, and I'm never like that. I always fight that. But yeah, I tried. That's also something I tried to become better. My better half still believes that I'm an ass when I'm in an airport because I see all the little things that shouldn't be working that way and X way, and I'm like, nah, and then I complain, and she'll big eyes, and I'm like, okay, fine. So I got better. Now I'm more zen where I'm in an airport. I'm like, whatever happens.
Yeah.
And also I get early, so I'm like, if the security lane is too like Heathrow, I'll wait. Anyway, the same Martin, I'm pretty sure it's the same because he almost word for word repeated what he just wrote without the addition of Emirates weight limits. Gave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That's very, very kind. I wrote a review. I've been listening to these two for years now and working in the aviation industry. I consider their opinions as very honest and straightforward. Well, I hope you don't believe everything we say.
Yeah, the opinions piece is very, very important.
Yes. I'm listening to a handful of aviation podcasts, but none gets me hooked with every released episode like theirs does. They are still the absolute gold standard, which is why I know he doesn't use his name, but I'm pretty sure, Martin, it's you. So thank you. Thank you. We don't ask for a lot of reviews, but that's very kind of you. So you can, if you want, I just said, you can comment now on Spotify, give us stars there, as you can still leave reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you want to simply interact, we're on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Twitter. Yeah. The only issue is that I'm not really a lot on social media, so sometimes I take a long time to actually just even notice that you wrote something. But please do. That's very kind of you. You can also do, even though I'm always never on Facebook, though I dabble in photography groups, so I will see a notification if you say something on the layovers page there. And you can also comment on YouTube, but on YouTube, there's only the audio. It's really for YouTube music, it's nothing to do with, there's no video of us or whatever. You can also comment there if you're so inclined. Anyway, I said game of numbers. Number 3, there will be a third runway probably at Heathrow. Number 2, there will be a second runway at Gatwick. And number 1, Luton is getting an expansion. That's very London-centric, but that's good news. I mean, we don't know. It's not law yet, but let's see, because Heathrow is really at the seams again.
Yeah. It was funny, actually, back to the same trip I went on with Megan to Portugal. We were sat in the BA lounge at Gatwick, which overlooks the apron, and she was watching the comings and goings, and she said, why don't they use that other runway? Why does everybody have to wait? And I said, you know what? That's a really good question, because it is a runway.
It is, yeah.
There are 2 runways there, but they're too close to do simultaneous parallel operations. And then we talked about, they may be doing a second runway, and she's looking around going, where are they going to put that? But I did see, this is an announcement that came out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. That there's a strong feeling in the current UK government that all 3 of those projects need to happen, and they need to happen quickly.
Quick, and at the same time, because you remember before it was either the third runway of Heathrow or the second of Gatwick. There was a fight, actually. Look, let's see, because, promises, but it seems that something is getting forward. And, if you want growth in this country, I guess you need to do it. But anyway, game of numbers, 20,000. It's the number of tier points you need to renew your gold, Alex. What are your thoughts?
This is big. It's absolutely huge, and it sent shockwaves through the frequent flyer community, not just within BA, but anybody tangentially related, or even anybody in the frequent flyer game, because it is such a monumental shift in status accrual, mileage accrual. I don't have the energy to be upset about this, to be honest. I think if I did, I would be pretty angry. I quickly, and we can dive into the specifics of it in a minute, but my feelings went, this was inevitable. I'm never going to have status with BA again. Oh, well.
Same. I mean, probably helped by the fact that post-COVID, I stopped seeking status. I mean, BA was very kind to soft land me twice, give me gold when I didn't deserve it, give me silver, which I'm still on when I still don't deserve it. Probably no one was going to happen. Probably going to get bronze next year. I mean, next renewal this year. Sorry, I don't know yet. So I was flying like I did at the beginning of this podcast. Basically, I was mostly flying whoever was either the cheapest when I'm in Europe or the best route when I'm flying internationally. So that helped. But it's true that it's a, status has two meanings here. Status is, of course, the status of an airline, but status also, there's always this nice feeling. They know it's that, oh, you're gold or you're platinum or you're diamond or something. And it stings. That's why we saw all these reactions. A lot of people were very... So basically, guys, it's just, if you haven't followed, you probably did if you're listening to a podcast like ours, but it's a revenue-based program, like a lot in the US have already done, some others in Europe, some others in Asia have already moved. So nothing... Like Alex said, nothing unexpected here. We knew it was coming. Probably, of course, the numbers are pretty high. So basically, for one tier point, it's £1. Just translate it to $1 or €1, even if that's not the right currency exchange right now. But basically, so 20,000 points to get gold is £20,000 to get gold on 1 year, which, of course, is a lot of money. And that destroys the game of all of those who were like, oh, let's fly to, I don't know, Tel Aviv or Cyprus. I don't remember which ones, when they were like, extra tier point that will allow you to do a mile run to just maybe hit that sweet spot to get renewed or access to a new tier. These are basically gone. And they're also capping. That's important. They're capping the amount of tier points you can get through the Amex that they're linked, BA is linked to. So it will be only 2,500 a year. So up to 2,500 pounds a year, you will be able to get as tier points. The rest will count as Avios, like you can, still accrue Avios, but not getting a higher tier. I mean, at the end of the day, I believe they're pandering, and it's not negatively, to corporates.
Yeah. I think that the thing that upset people the most in that currently have status or fly reasonably regularly with BA is that it went from what it is to what it's going to be with no graduation or anything like that. So the amount of money required to maintain your existing status goes orders of magnitude higher overnight. And people are looking at what they have spent. Of course, there was microscopic analysis of this in Flyer Talk, and actually to an extent Reddit with people going back years and saying, okay, I've spent X
And to be noted, sorry to interrupt, to be noted, taxes will not count. So
taxes
if your ticket is like £2,000 to say something, and you have like 500 of government taxes and fuel, this is not. So you only, let's say, 1,500, for instance. Yeah.
And go back and look at all of your fare breakdown when you next buy a ticket, or if you've got a receipt in your email, and you will see how little of the money that you pay to the airline is actually for the fare.
For the fare,
which is in turn what's going to accrue you tier points in the future. Yep. But these guys are going back and looking at what they spent on with BA to maintain their current status year over year, and then going, well, I'm going to have to spend 4 times that to maintain my current status. Yeah. And then I can't augment it, like you say, with the Amex as well to kind of get up there.
But again, these forums are mostly people like us. So either high spend leisure travelers or heavy travelers, short haul. Then, I mean, the corporate traveler is probably not on Flyer Talk and Reddit, because if you do like 6, even 5 return to New York from London, you have gold, because I'm talking flex. Look, I had clients in the past, not anymore, but I had clients in the past. I remember I had a corporate client, US company, get me to Japan. The flight was £10,000. They didn't even blink. So these are the types. And I know a lot of friends of mine working, in law firms or global law firms and banking, financial institution, private equity. that's the type of money they pay. Like 6,000, 7,000 to go to the US is normal. So for them, the game isn't changing. Actually, and that's where I think I'm slightly defending BA, is that if their plan, because they probably, I mean, they make the calculation, they know, the status, the tier pointer system, they have the data on all of us. They know when we do I've never done it, but when you do a mile run, they're not stupid. So they just analyzed and they said, okay, these big accounts that fill the seats, either last minute or full flex, what do they demand? How do we make them happy? They do fly mostly internationally. So what can we do? We want to reduce the number, and that's true. That will reduce the number of people in the first class lounges, in the gold lounges, because obviously a lot of people will be downgraded to silver, which is still nice. You still have fast track, whatever. Of course, a lot of people will also be downgraded to bronze or nothing, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's a way to. But maybe they won't have to do any refurbishment because only the lounges will be empty. No, that's a joke. But if their plan is, and that's clearly seemingly the case, is if their plan is to really go for these corporates. Yeah, that works. Again, the ones that will lose, besides, again, the leisure travelers, are probably the corporates that fly mostly short haul in Europe, because you're never going to pay like 2,000 to fly to Paris or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that what they've shown is that they don't value loyalty as much as they value revenue.
Revenue.
Yeah, and it's a business.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So, and I know this was a McKinsey thing. This is McKinsey were the people behind that.
But Alex, BA changed because they were simplifying, because they were listening to the customer feedback. That email, when they announce it, like, we listen to you and this is what we're changing. I'm like, yeah, right. That's the only thing that I was like, guys, the email actually dropped on the 30th of December, just before New Year's Eve. And you were like, you didn't listen. You listened to McKinsey and to your revenue, which is fair. Again, I agree with you, but I always love these emails when they start with, in response to customer feedback, we decided to change the loyalty scheme. Yeah, right. No. But again, if you want loyalty, get a dog, a Ryanair CEO. I'm like, this way. And it's the end. That's the other thing. Is it not the end? Do you think it's the end of the cruise era when, BA was trying to fight the low cost and being cheap? Like now they try to get more up market because, they have the new first class coming on the 380, which is the only reason it starts with the 380 is that they don't have the 777X, which are they trying to, satisfy again these corporate travelers who expect luxury to the extent of, because a leisure travel, that's the only thing where they might lose a little bit, obviously, is that, but they made a calculation then again, is that a lot of people were flying a lot of short haul and then getting the status, and then once a year or twice a year doing like a long haul leisure travel and say, I'll choose BA because I have status. Now they might just go, I'll choose Emirates, or I'll choose Virgin Atlantic, or I'll choose JetBlue or whatever. But they probably made the calculation that, well, if we lose them, it's not going to, because that's the thing. You and me, we do that. I mean, leisure travelers, they book flights like 300 days in advance. Corporates do not know when you're going to fly to attend a meeting throughout. So the discount you get by booking early does not exist for corporates. And again, if they want to pander to poor corporates, and again, pander is not the right word, just to satisfy the corporate travelers.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the revamp of the 380, the current configuration is only 60% of the 380 that is premium, first class, Club World, and premium economy. Mm-hmm. With the revamp, it's going to be 73% because they know these are higher yields. So they're actually increasing the number of passengers in the front, if you want. That's where they make their money. So it shows that they understood, maybe McKinsey understood that if they want to make bank, if you want to make revenue, that's what they need to focus on. We'll see. They also had, let's not forget, last year, so 2024 was the second highest number of passenger ever for BA. Wow. 2019 was before, which also tells us that COVID is definitely just a memory, because basically this year in 2025, they will beat the 2019. So, with constraints, capacity, not buying like 25,000 million planes like Riyadh Air or whatever, they're going to focus on premium cabins. And
I mean, from a business perspective, I get it. I think it was a little heavy-handed in the application of it. Yeah. But it is the way the world is moving in terms of frequent flyers. They are certainly, as you said, a lot of the U.S. airlines have already moved in this direction, and there were announcements announcements both before and after this BA announcement that are similar.
The only difference, I think, sorry to interrupt again, is that I don't think, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think, because we're not specialists, at least I'm not a specialist in these loyalty schemes, I don't think the US caps the use of credit cards. Because that's a lot of what people do to actually gain status.
Yeah.
Here, that will clearly cap it. Because no matter how much you spend doing something else than flying, you cannot get the status.
Can't get status, no.
Yeah.
What's been interesting, though, is that a lot of people have put time and energy into figuring out how you can get status, one world status through the other one world carriers.
Yep.
And it looks like Finnair is the way to go in the short term.
I was hesitating myself, like I'm flying Qatar next month. For the moment, I didn't put any frequent flyer. I'm like, should I use BA? Should I use Finnair? Or should I actually use my Qatar one? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Because since the Avios, anyway, I can transfer them between all these programs easily. It's like, what do I do? I'm not going to gain, I don't think I'm going to gain status on Finnair either. And again, I'm not seeking status. But certainly I'm like, okay, fly wherever you want, which is my philosophy. But then what do I do now? Where do I put my...
it's the question I ask myself every time I fly a non-one world carrier. Like, where do I put these?
Yeah.
Is there any point? You know?
Yeah, exactly. I made many mistakes by doing that. Like I've lonely miles in some program that I've never used it again. Like, so like I like JetBlue, for instance. I mean, I should have put them. I think I was able to put them on Emirates and I didn't. Yeah. And now I'm like, they're stuck there. I'm going to fly JetBlue at some point, and I think they're still valid, whatever. But yeah. But the thing, at least maybe for people like us, I mean, we've been traveling. We've been lucky to travel other airlines. It will probably allow people to try other airlines, you know, and because let's I was never enamored, and this is not a bash, guys. I was never enamored with BA. I don't have, of course, I'm not British myself. I flew them. Actually, if you listen to this podcast since the start, you remember I was actually flying a lot of Star Alliance. And then I think 2016 only, I really started to fly BA. And then I said, okay, it's practical. And that's the thing. That's also what they know. They know that no matter what, if you want to, I'm flying to Madrid next week. I mean, EasyJet on BA or Iberia, but which is BA. So at the end, IAG. So at the end of the day, there's not that much. What can I do? Especially on short haul, I cannot fly Virgin Atlantic or Emirates to Madrid. So you're a bit of a slave of your home market, and that's the case in every airport in the world, and they know that, right? So, but still, people will be able to discover other stuff. Maybe, you know, if you fly east, you'll fly maybe the ME3 or Turkish or Singapore Airlines or Cathay Pacific, ANA and JAL, and a few others, and in Europe. To finish, in Europe, is there really an airline that is much, much better than BA?
No.
Well, Air France, maybe.
Yeah, maybe Air France, Swiss.
I mean, so that's what they know that as well. It's not as if like there's another amazing airline that you can switch to.
And that's going to get you the reach from your home airport, as you say. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll keep flying EasyJet. I like them for Europe if I can. So, what trip do you want to talk about? I don't know. I haven't asked you actually before recording this show.
India is going to, that covers a lot of ground.
Okay, go ahead.
Literally and figuratively. Oh, okay, we're just jumping right in. All right, cool. It's going to be hard to top Nepal because that was,
of course,
that was pretty unique. But the trip to India was for a wonderful reason. My brothers and I are meeting up and traveling together for the first time since, I think, what did we say, 1998, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And we had planned a trip. We've been trying to plan a brother's trip for 15 years, and something always got in the way. Like, my one brother was very unwell for a long time, and then all of us had kids and moved around, and then COVID, and then Will, my youngest brother, was in a terrible bike accident and shattered his leg. So we just never got a chance. But this one, we wanted to go. If you haven't seen the episode, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, Attache, yeah.
We wanted to go to where our grandmother was born. She passed away in April of last year. We wanted to go to the place in northern India where she was born and spent the first 20-something years of her life, Shimla, in the just on the edge of the Himalayas there. So it took a lot of planning to coordinate the four of us, obviously including Greg, getting from our various home airports to Delhi, where we were going to start, because she used to work in Delhi for the British government. And my dad was going to be there at the same time and trying to get all these moving parts. And I felt like the grown up, trying to, because I've been to India quite a few times, but neither of them had been to India. Neither of them had really done a lot of this kind of planning at the level that you and I kind of obsess over when we're planning these trips. So there were a lot of back and forth, some Zoom calls. And Will was the first person to buy his ticket. He was the one that was like, okay, you know what? I pulled the trigger, and he flew Turkish to Delhi. So Denver to Istanbul, Istanbul to Delhi.
Oh, wow. Denver to Istanbul. That's quite a long flight. That.
Yeah, it is. And he, he was a champ. He hadn't taken a flight that long in a while, and he was still recovering from his accident and the surgeries and the recovery, but he worked really, really hard in physio and physical rehab and all of that, and got the green light from his doctors and from physios to say, yeah, you can do this long haul flight. Take the precautions, to prevent DVT or anything like that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. So he did it, and it was his first experience of Istanbul Airport, which he was impressed by. And the way that we had scheduled it is that Andrew and Wills, they had never been to Delhi, decided to arrive 24 hours before Greg and I, Greg and me, because my dad was going to be there. He was going to take them around Delhi. They wanted to experience a little bit of Delhi. Greg and I have obviously been there. We filmed an episode there. Yep. So Andrew and Will arrived, I think within an hour or so of each other. Andrew flew BA, I think in business, from London, from down to Delhi, and they arrived, had 24 hours on the ground. Greg and I were looking at different flights to try and accommodate our various schedules and home airports and commitments and everything like that.
And Greg's carry-on.
And Greg's carry-on, yeah. Who was going to be less dickish about Greg's carry-on? And actually, you know what? It's interesting you say that, because he decided in the end to check a bag, because he's running into this problem more and more where he's telling them, look, I can't check this bag because it's full of batteries. And then they go, okay, well, we can't do a quick bag check because then you'd need to take out all your batteries and we're boarding and blah, blah, blah. So now when we have trips like this, long haul, where there's a little bit of time backed in, he is putting them in a Peli case. Those you guys will have seen them in the airports, those really rugged looking plastic ridged cases that are designed for photographic equipment or anything fragile. And he checked it in. And that story actually comes back to bite us in the ass a little bit later. But it took me a long time to find a decent flight to Delhi within the time frame that we were looking at. We were going in November, which is a reasonably nice time of year to be in that part of the world. It's not too hot, but it was expensive. It was busy and expensive, and he ended up going on Air Canada, believe it or not. Air Canada have a Fifth Freedom route from London to Delhi.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was surprised by this, but it was the most reasonably priced. They were all within 75 pounds of each other, other than Air India, who were insanely expensive.
Wow.
Maybe 50% more than everybody else.
Oh.
They had the timings worked. They had a generous baggage allowance carry-on policy, and I booked him then because I wanted him to be taken care of and get all that so he could book his own taxis to the airport and everything. And meanwhile, I was futzing with, I had an anchor now. I knew when he was going to get there. I wasn't worried about Greg. He can figure out Delhi on his own, but I thought it would be convenient for us to be able to arrive at the same time. And our plan was to get off the plane, go to Delhi station, meet my brothers, and get on the train and go. And just crack on. And, because we're seasoned professionals. We know how to do this. We have the endurance. We didn't need 24 hours on the ground.
And also you had probably a limited time. You were not saying 2 weeks.
As we always do. We had a limited time to do this, and we were willing to kind of take that physical hit. I ended up finding a redemption ticket on Virgin. My itinerary was far more complicated because I had to go from Delhi to New York. I had a speaking gig in New York right after. There was no other way. So trying to book a multi-leg, open jaw itinerary was proving far too complicated and frankly far too expensive to do through traditional means. So I found a redemption to at least to get from London to Delhi on Virgin for what now appears to be a staggeringly low amount.
Okay.
London
with
to,
miles, you mentioned.
Yeah.
So your points, right? Okay.
London to Delhi in premium economy on Virgin, 7,500 points.
What?
Yeah, and £100 in taxes and fees.
I have that on my Virgin account. I should go. Oh,
Yeah, but
wow.
they've since changed it because that's the a la mode. But I jumped on that. I was like, that is one heck of a deal. Premium economy, 7,500, which, in terms of value, Avios, everything like that, they're kind of like for like. It's not like Etihad where you need 600,000 points to redeem. This is, you're accruing at a reasonable rate, and that was an unbelievable rate of redemption. So I jumped on that, and our flight. It just happened to turn out that our flights arrived in the same terminal within 45 minutes of each other.
Great. Okay,
yeah, so it worked out. My flight ended up being delayed, but it didn't really matter. So Greg left from Terminal 2 around the same time as me on Air Canada, and I left from Terminal 3 on BA. Boy, Terminal 3 these days, more and more tired.
Yeah, I mean, this is, to come back to what you just said about this third runway, I hope it's not only the third runway, but there's some refurbishment, because honestly, it feels like since the opening of Terminal 2 in London, they haven't done jack shit. There's nothing, no infrastructure investment. I mean, they've changed, like they repainted a wall or whatever. I'm like, yeah, Terminal 3, the more I go, the more it looks like, come on, guys, we're not in the 70s anymore, right?
And Virgin Atlantic and now Delta, they share that big space at the southern end of the terminal. They have tried for a decade now to try and put lipstick on that particular pig, and it's a nice experience. But, and I was relaying this to you in real time, when I got to Terminal 3, and I was checking a bag too because it's free. I didn't want to faff with it.
Yeah.
It just seemed like the easy thing to do. I had quite a lot of stuff because then I was going on to New York, and I wanted to have a little bit of empty suitcase space for shopping and all of that in the US. When I got to Terminal 3, I walked in and I immediately felt there's something amiss here. There's a very strange atmosphere. What is happening? And the reason I felt that was it was palpable, but also there was this huge layer of people between the entrance and the check-in desks, but they weren't. But the space between this layer of people and the check-in desk was empty. So it's not like there was a big queue of people trying to get in. There was just this blob of people. And I was like, okay, but this is strange. So I don't have status with Virgin Atlantic anymore, but I walked over to the premium economy check-in because I was in premium economy, and it was the same thing. All of the check-in desks were manned, but there was nobody in front of them. But there was a huge queue waiting to get into the premium economy area. And I was like, what's happening here? And I get in line with everybody else out of habit because I'm British. Oh, there's a queue. I best join it. And I overhear people coming back, lots of Americans, because it was the time of day when a lot of the North American flights leave Heathrow.
Yeah.
And I hear people saying, we have to wait in this queue. The entire ESTA system is down.
Oh, yeah, remember. Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, that's not good. So these people can't check in because they can't validate whether or not they have an ESTA.
Oh.
And I joined the queue, and people were like, I don't know what to do. Our flight's coming in. And they would eventually call a flight at a time. Anybody going to, I think, Atlanta? And I'm sitting there going, oh my God. And then I went like, wait a minute. I'm going to India.
Exactly.
I don't need an ESTA. So I said to, sorry, just tap my mic. I said to somebody, look, I'll be right back. I'm not jumping the queue or anything, but I don't think this problem affects me. And I go up to the very patient, but obviously stressed Virgin Atlantic person who was manning this queue.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to India. And he's like, go ahead. Go,
nice.
this isn't your problem.
A kid.
And I went straight up to the empty check-in desk, and
Everybody looking, who's that guy? What did he get?
who is
VIP
that guy?
treatment?
How did you do that? and I almost wanted to say, I'm going to India. This problem isn't mine. I'm not sorry. But I went up to the check-in desk, and I was like, well, this is not a good start to the day. And she's like, oh, you have no idea. And I'm sending you messages. I'm sending my dad messages. I'm looking online, and there wasn't actually a whole lot of chatter about this, but it turns out, yes, the entire US ESTA system. And this was the day of the election, the day after the US election.
Oh, wow.
And of course, people were like, blah, 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 conspiracy, blah, 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 he's shutting the borders, blah, 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 blah. And of course, it was just a crappy IT infrastructure failure. But of course, it was so easy to go, hey, this is exciting. But of course, I was through in no time. The people were very friendly, and I was through to departures quickly. I went to the Amex Centurion Lounge, which I had never been to before.
I've not either. I've seen it. How is it?
It was good. It's in the bowels of Terminal 3. So if you guys are familiar with Terminal 3, you come through security and into this messy, crowded space of duty free and shops and a couple of restaurants. And in the far right corner is a space with a staircase that takes you to the kids' play area, which is a freaking godsend if you've got young kids. Big, like play indoor, like a soft play area, by the way, if you got kids. And the stairs to this new Amex Centurion Lounge, which is very small, no windows, but very nice.
Okay, good.
Nice staff, good food. I was trying to avoid looking at any of the televisions, but it was and very fast internet. Very easy to get into, but it did feel like when you're walking from that main shopping concourse to the lounge, you're like, I am very sure I am in a place that I should not be. This feels very restricted area, but eventually you pop out and it all feels quite temporary. But the ex-US American Express Centurion lounges do not have the problems that you hear about constantly in the US of 30 to 45 minute queues to get into them. We just don't have that problem outside of the US. And it was a perfectly nice lounge.
Good.
Which I think there are more and more opening up outside of the US, which is a good thing.
They're sending me, I'm on I don't know if it's a newsletter or whatever. They keep sending me, there's a new one, whatever. Yeah.
It's a good program.
Yeah.
That plus Priority Pass and a lounge benefit is not something I will miss with BA.
Exactly what I was about to say. The whole discussion we had about status before, at the end of the day, more and more airports allow you to buy fast track if you really need it that day. Plus, we have access to this kind of stuff, the facilities. I'm like, it becomes, what's the added benefit of having, I mean, again, of course, priority access to phone lines, to customer service.
Blocking seats.
And stuff like that. Or like choosing your seat at the time of booking instead of having to wait for either like 24 hours or either like maybe a week before for some. Yeah. I mean, these are the things, but I don't know. It's hard to make especially because I'm not going to spend £20,000 on BA next year.
No, exactly. And it made me realize these last several trips I've taken, like the lounge piece is for the most part solved.
Yes.
Because in so many cases, you're going into the same lounge that you would be going to anyway with the airline status.
And I will add because I've seen it more and more in other airports I've been recently with the new security, when you don't have to remove your liquids, your laptops. The queues in a normal non-fast track security are going much faster.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's equivalent to fast track, obviously. You don't get like the benefit of, boasting in front of people, look, you're poor and I'm rich. Because I'm not, which is, by the way, a little bit of the issue that I've got, and I don't want to be too dismissive. Guys, when we have status, you're not wealthy because you have status. It's a way that they play with us. But at the end of the day, if you were wealthy, you either pay for a business class ticket or first class, or you have your private jet. But I agree with you. The lounge piece is, especially in big airports, where there's a lot of different third-party lounges, is better and better, right?
Yeah. It really makes a difference, and it made me realize, not mourn my status losses as much as I probably would have 5 years ago. But it's, and I would love to have gone into the Virgin Atlantic Lounge at Heathrow. It's great, but the Amex Lounge was fine. I got a bunch of work done. I, checked in with where everybody was and their respective itineraries, and I was able to enjoy that. And then the flight went from one of the terminals at the very east
almost like
of
these
the
piers
terminal.
when you have to walk.
Yeah, no. So the strange ones that are generally used for domestic flights.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple of spaces for bigger airplanes at the end of those, right next to the lounges.
Okay.
There's that kind of little.
I've never flown
nub.
from there. I've
Yeah,
seen them,
there's a few of them, and it was a 350.
Nice.
Reasonably busy flight. But they were, what I liked about Virgin is that they, even though there was a delay, they communicated brilliantly about when and what was going to happen.
That's good.
And when they boarded groups, they were really strict about it. Because there was a big enough space because you were at the very end of the terminal.
Oh, so they could manage different queues or
They
groups.
could manage different queues. They didn't need to get everybody lined up.
Yeah.
They could send people away. They could preemptively see when groups were kind of milling about and trying to go and say, we're not boarding, go and have a seat.
That's like we said earlier, this hurting kids, like
Yeah. But
stay.
they did. And I think the communication helped. They
Yeah,
were
100%.
very assertive as well in their communication, but not rude. It was sort of, here's what's happening. Don't come up unless you're this group. And I appreciated that process. It makes me realize how much I appreciate an efficient boarding process. But I think I was group 2 because of premium economy.
That's nice. Group 2 for premium economy is nice, actually.
Yeah, because they have business class only. They don't have a first, and they'll do group.
Do they
1
have a
for,
group 0 like me?
No, I don't think so.
By the way, sorry, before I forget, Ed, because you're gold guest list. I think gold guest list. You remember 20,000 points for gold. Gold guest list is 1,500,000 points. So it's 1,500,000 pounds to get it. Did I get that right? I don't know who can get that.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Again, maybe nobody in the Concorde group. But sorry, isn't that going back to your boarding process? Did I not read, and you probably have, that is it AA that has introduced in the US a system where if you are trying to board early with a group that is not yours, there will be a sound almost like a shaming mechanism to throw you back at the end of the queue or something.
I read that. I read that on Flyer Talk, and I think people were saying that it works. Lufthansa do something similar now.
Okay,
maybe it's a Star Alliance thing.
Okay, I didn't know. I just read that.
Yeah, where if you try, they're using these gates, and if you try, it will beep at you. And I think for the most part it works, except for when there's exceptions. If you're with somebody who needs help or whatever, I don't
eject you back like this catapult system. Like woo!
Yeah. And I can understand that. It's infuriating, and I think it just gums things up when people aren't doing.
So
that.
sorry, I interrupted your flow. Go ahead.
No, not at all, not at all. And I hadn't flown on a Virgin Atlantic 350 before, so I was really excited about that. And they've done a good job with that airplane. It's very Virgin, very comfortable seat, nice big screen, the pink or reddish mood lighting. And we pushed back about an hour or 45 minutes late because we were waiting for a sizable transfer contingent. Maybe, I think he said 45 people were coming on it, and you can't, if you're going to wait 45 minutes knowing you're probably going to make that time up en route, you wait.
Yeah.
So I can't begrudge them for that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I could see Greg's plane taxi and takeoff, which is good. I knew he was on his way and all of that. I settled into my very comfortable seat. I was really impressed by the IFE, these really sharp screens, a lot of really good content. Rich and deep content. The one thing that I will say, and I feel like this with Emirates too, and maybe I'm just getting old and fuddy-duddy. I watched Monkey Man, the Dev Patel movie, which
I have not seen it. Okay,
was really good. It's super violent.
Oh,
like comic book violent.
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
see.
watching this on a really big screen, and I had to turn it off.
Oh, wow.
Because I felt so self-conscious, like people like could look
yeah.
over and see my screen. I was like, are there any? Because I remember when I was flying on Emirates with my kids, like pre-COVID, and we were sat in a row, and somebody was watching, It.
Yeah.
They're watching the movie It, and I like, you watch it. I'm not gonna. And I could see my son kind of like trying to shield his eyes. He was only like 6 or 7 at the time, and I was like, I love that they put these on. I love that there's a richness of content, but.
Yeah.
I was also sort of like, gosh, how do we all kind of coexist and take care of each other in these environments, or at least be sensitive to people? Because there was sort of like, there was sexual violence and there was a lot of bloodshed and all of that.
Maybe they should put, I don't know if that exists for airlines. Maybe they should put, these privacy screens that you have on phones.
I believe some of the BA airplanes have that.
Maybe, because, because I couldn't work.
Those matte screens that they put.
And at an angle, you're unable to see what's actually going on the screen. I'm just throwing that out. I don't even know if it's feasible, but I'm like, I understand what you're saying. It's like watching like a movie and suddenly there's like a very hot sexual scene. You know, like everybody, I mean, if you're in business class in a pod, you're fine. But like everybody's like, guys, I'm not watching Pornhub here. It's on the IFE.
It's on the IFE. Like, I remember, I've seen it where I think Megan and I were flying maybe back from our honeymoon, and somebody was watching the Gucci movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that has some moments in it. Yeah. And I was like, if
Steamy
my kids were on here, and I'm not, please watch whatever you like. But I was thinking, how would I manage that for my kids?
Agreed. I totally see it. And the self-consciousness of it for me is something that like, oh my God, is nobody watching what I'm watching? And again, it's just like, trust me, guys, it's on the IFE.
It's part of the movie. I didn't make the movie. I didn't put it on the IFE, but I did really admire the quality of content that was on there. I mean, it really, probably the best I've seen in a long time.
Good. Amazing.
And the food was excellent. And
how long is the flight?
It was about 8 hours.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I think we left at about 1:45 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And we're scheduled to arrive at about 2:30 in the morning. Okay. So not massively social, but that was fine. And there was a chap sat next to me. We didn't say a single word to each other. He was an Indian guy. And as we were coming into land, maybe about top of descent, we both had the camera view on. They have these really sharp, forward-looking cameras on the 350.
That's what I loved about the Airbuses. Yeah, those cameras, man.
Crystal clear, really sharp, and we're both on the same view. And as the landing gear came down into view, we both saw each other grinning. And we both turned to each other and go, that was pretty cool, huh? Yeah. and then we didn't stop talking for the rest of the flight.
Nice.
And it turns out, not only is he a major AV geek, he goes, this is going to sound weird, but your voice sounds really familiar. And I'm like, I have on a podcast called Layover. He's like, I thought it was you. I love that show. This is amazing. And we just spent the whole time geeking out on.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it turns out he lives in Boston and works for a big IT consulting firm, and flies all over the world. He was doing this trip to see his parents, and then he was going back, and right after Christmas was going down to Australia for like 4 days.
Wow.
And we were talking about like jet lag strategy and all of that. It was such a nice guy.
Oh, amazing.
And it was great to share some kind of AV geek enthusiasm with somebody who
it's been a while. It hasn't happened to us when we meet, because we used to, maybe because it's just due to chance, but we used to meet these random like are you, and then of course you go on for talking for hours about Avgeek stuff.
It was so cool. It was such a nice moment, and we were able to talk a little bit longer because we pulled into our stand. We had to wait quite a long time because there was a traffic jam on the taxiway leading up to our gate, while somebody pushed back and they went through all their pre-flight checks. So we sat there for a good 30 minutes. And then when we pulled into our gate, I think I might have sent this picture to you, but we overshot the mark.
Oh, yeah.
And because the only reason why I was able to know that was because we had the cameras on and we could see the plane comes in, we stop, and then we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait. And they haven't turned the seatbelt signs off. And more and more people start appearing at the front landing gear. And I think at the point I took the picture, there was nearly 20 people. It's very in India, but gathered around going, what are we going to do? Because we can't do yeah. It was watching this conference go along. Eventually they decided to chalk the airplane and just roll with it. But we were all the way through the end of the tree, the marking tree.
Yep.
And they were worried that they wouldn't be able to get the jet bridge to extend far enough. And eventually they worked out that they could. But it was 45 minutes of conference and decision making and all of that before we eventually got off.
Oh, wow.
It's very, very amusing. And you know what? There's nothing, I don't get upset about those situations because there's nothing I can do about it. You just wait for them to solve the problem.
Yeah, it's outside of your control, so why get upset? Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, Greg was off his plane and waiting for his bag, and it turns out that that took a long time because they'd put it through the oversized baggage for some reason because it was strapped up. Eventually I get off and we go through immigration together, which has become somehow an even more laborious process in India.
Wow.
Yeah, you do this e-visa thing, which is fine, and you get approved, unlike Nepal, where it just goes into the abyss. You get approved and you get a visa, but you have to go through a validation process at a desk, and it takes 10 minutes a person for some reason. I don't know why, but it does.
That's long.
Eventually, my bag comes out, and we get into a taxi and my father had very generously put us up in the Imperial Hotel in Delhi, where Greg and I had about 4 hours before we had to hit the road and get on the train.
Still 4
uncomfortable.
You get what you get, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Enjoy it. Yeah,
exactly. If I was going to get 4 hours sleep, there aren't many better places in Delhi to get it.
Exactly.
So I certainly was not looking that gift horse in the mouth. You can see the rest of the.
Yeah, I was about to say the rest is actually on video. It's a lovely video because it's of course the three of you, and there's a point, especially when I'm not going to spoil it because if you haven't watched it, just watch it. When you read the excerpts, I mean, it's really nice video. I enjoyed it a lot.
It was fun. I'm proud of that episode. And eventually we get back to Delhi and all scatter. Will goes back on Turkish to Denver via Istanbul. Greg on Air Canada around the same time as well, same terminal. I, of course, like I said, had to get to New York, and I had a budget for my client. So I found the easiest way, most comfortable way was Finnair via Helsinki.
Okay.
There were direct flights from Delhi to New York. That is a horrendously long flight. The options, both in terms of product and timing and cost, were not attractive.
Yeah.
So it was Air India and I believe wasn't American.
United. I'm pretty sure it's United. Yeah.
None of the timings worked. The prices were not good value, but this Finnair via Helsinki was a good timing. The fare was very reasonable. It was a 350 onto a 330. Helsinki is a joy to transit through. So it just, and you know, this is before the status revelation. It was going to get me silver again. This flight would have gotten me over the edge to silver. So I booked it, and the flight left the same terminal as Greg and Will, but at I think I had about an hour and a half later than them. And this is sort of 6 o'clock in the morning around. We all had our same flight. The whole thing was made more complicated by the fact that Delhi and much of India was, and actually incredibly still is, experiencing generational air pollution.
Yeah.
Like once in a lifetime levels. When we were in Delhi on the day we came back from Shimla, it was, you could taste it. You could feel it in the back of your throat. It lingered. You could not stay out for too long. It was so bad. I know
what you experienced because I had the same experience, I cannot say, in Karachi.
Yes.
And it's stuff that as a kid, I do remember, not similar, but I remember like I have memories of Athens hyper polluted in the beginning of the 80s before they cleaned it up, and I think Milan, and but we're not used to it anymore. And when you go to these places, and you can even see the pollution. It's like it's not only in the air, like I visibly see it, it's almost like in front of you, like it hovers, and it's like, oh god.
It was so bad that when the sun came up, you could look right at the sun.
Wow.
And it was causing visibility delays in and out of Delhi airport. So, and on the scale, I'm just trying to find the screenshot. I have it somewhere, but it was on the scale of particulates per million or whatever it is. Bad pollution to the point where, when I was in California during the fires, it was at 200, and they were saying, don't leave the house. If you do, wear a mask. Anybody with a breathing issue should not stay indoors. The day that we left India, it was at over 500.
Holy cow.
And they were having days where it was getting up to nearly 1,000.
Oh my God.
And it was so bad. It was causing arrival delays. 512 was on the air quality index.
Oh dear.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. And it was because, for a number of reasons, it was the time of year where they burn the crops, where they burn to make the fields fallow. But also there was this very unusual weather pattern where the wind was just not coming in the direction it usually does, and just holding the pollution down.
Oh God.
I'm not a meteorologist, but that's what I understood it to be. Anyway, it was bad.
Alex is right now in front of a green screen and showing me some clouds here.
It was great. It was horrendous. It was really, really just an awful experience. Delhi Airport, once you're inside of it, with the new renovation they've done to it over the last 10 years, is actually very pleasant. I was in a lounge, third-party lounge, huge.
Was it part of your ticket with Finnair? Or
no,
was
it priority pass.
Priority pass, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely huge lounge of one of two or three that were in this terminal, and outstanding. The food quality and variety of prepared and fresh and hot food was really, really excellent.
Nice.
I was so impressed by it. It was clean. It was comfortable. Lots of space. No windows facing the terminal, but there was windows back down onto the terminal. Mm-hmm. I was very, very impressed by that. I had a little bit more time because we shared a taxi to the airport together, and so I had an extra kind of hour and a half there. But I was just so impressed by the quality of that lounge, third party, because third party lounges can be so hit and miss. Yeah, and this was excellent. This was truly excellent.
Good.
And I enjoyed myself there. I wasn't sure what the quality of the food on the airplane was going to be like, so I enjoyed my last chole bhature before getting on the plane. And the flight to Helsinki was a 350, or at least I thought it was a 350.
What do you mean?
When I booked the flight and when I was checking the seat maps up until the day before, because I snagged myself a bulkhead, I was like,
in which class were you in?
In premium economy.
Premium economy, yeah. And
I was like, oh, great, this looks great, fantastic. I've flown on a 350 once with Finnair short haul when they were doing familiarization between London and Helsinki.
They still exist once in a while. You can still find 350 in London too. Yeah,
love it. Such a great airplane and product. But then as the plane pulls up, I was like, that's not an A350. That's an A330.
Oh, the oldest.
But that's okay because the product was the same.
Oh, okay.
The hard product was the same.
Yeah.
Few little differences you have here and there. But I get on board. I have my premium economy seat, bulkhead, and it turns out that the flight was really quite quiet. Oh. So premium economy only had about 7 people in it.
Nice.
And so I had the seat next to me. And I was really impressed by Finnair. They have really stepped up their game. They had a really good product. The seat was comfortable, nice big screen with very not particularly deep, rich content. Nothing compared to Virgin Atlantic, but enough to keep you busy. You can order snacks and drinks and everything for free, obviously. you get your meals, but then if you're hungry and you want a snack or a drink, you just order it on the screen and they bring it to you very, very quickly.
That's
and
nice.
they have a status.
What do you mean?
Of every order. So you say, I want a Coke Zero, and it says sent. And then it's once a cabin member of the cabin crew has seen it, it says seen.
Nice.
And then when they're preparing it, it says delivering, and then it comes to you, which is
nice.
really a rather nice way of doing it. You have a sense of what's
on
going
other
on.
airlines, they will give you, I think that blinks, it's ready. Now come to the galley now.
Yeah,
Come
exactly.
To the
Yeah, and you could go up to the galley
Of
and order
course,
whatever
yeah.
you wanted. Another thing that was so impressive about those guys was that the Wi-Fi was blazing fast.
They started with Starlink, or you don't know? Because
don't-
Qatar has it. I'm hoping to get it next month. No, next month. And United in the US, I think these are the two that I'm sure it's already rolled out, but there's many others that are like in the pipeline of Air France.
I
et cetera.
don't actually remember who the provider was. I don't think it was
anyway,
Starlink.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
T-Mobile.
Okay.
But it was so fast to the point
good.
where I was working on my laptop as if I was in a lounge somewhere or an airport somewhere.
That's nice.
It was so fast. I could stream, I could watch YouTube, I could do whatever I needed to do, and it made the flight go really, really quickly.
Do you remember that 10 years ago when we started this podcast, we were like, no Wi-Fi because it's the only place in the world where we can actually be disconnected. And now we're like, Starlink, we need like 1 gigabyte of.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was very impressed
nice.
by the whole experience. The cabin crew were friendly in a sort of, in a Finnish way.
I'm Finn. I know what you mean.
You know what I mean.
For those who don't know, my mother was from Finland. I have the passport. It's I know what you mean. It's reserved, I guess.
Reserved in a very sort of
But it's-
straight talking sense of
Exactly.
humor.
Exactly. Very direct. But yeah, I like it. Maybe I'm used to it, but I like it.
One of the things that they gave you was a neck pillow. So on your seat,
nice.
you get a reasonably nice amenity kit with everything and a neck pillow, which you have to give back at the end of the flight. But it was a really nice one with a clip. And so I actually got some decent sleep. It was what a clever thing to hand out.
I agree. Not that expensive.
Not
in
that
terms
expensive.
of-
So,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
they were
CapEx
quite
and
like they were watching, did you give yours back? Did you give yours back? But it was a nice little touch.
Excellent. Yeah, agreed.
To
Wow.
give you. And of course, Helsinki airport is designed for quick transit, even though I had in the end about 2.5 hours.
Was it November? So was it snowing? No.
No, it was strange. They were like, there's not been any snow yet this year, which is kind of unusual, but it's good for us because it means there's no delays, there's no delays, anything like that.
Did you notice, because last time they finished the refurbishment, I mean, there was no works to speak
No,
of.
there was no works. And the one thing and this is not Finnair's fault or problem, is that the mental gymnastics that you need to go through to figure out what you need to do to get to your next gate is significant. Like,
What?
if you're coming from country X and connecting to country Y, you need to do this. But if you are coming from country X and connecting to country Y, but do not have a passport of that country, you need to do this. If you're connecting to a Schengen, and I'm like, I don't.
Is that because of Schengen, you think, believe, or no?
It's
I don't know.
well, when you also complicate it with U.S. pre-clearance and
of
things
course.
like if you're coming, from India and connecting to a U.S. flight, you then have to go through another layer of security.
Security, yes.
So I'm like,
yes,
good. Where do I go, and how long is this going to take? And do I blah blah blah? Which passport? It turns out that you are kind of ultimately shepherded to the right channel. I did have to go through inbound immigration to just because I wasn't coming from a Schengen country. I wasn't coming from an immigration partnership country. I did have to go through security. Fine. What I didn't know was, am I going to have to go through security again
Yes, at the gate.
at the gate
instance,
because
for
I'm
the
going on a
US.
US flight? It turns out no, that I didn't.
Okay.
If you've been to Helsinki airport, there's this block of Finnair lounges, really massive Finnair lounges. And Greg and I filmed in Helsinki last year. year before, 2023, I think it was. And I remember thinking, this is a good, functional, very Finnish lounge. Everything was comfortable and more than serviceable. And when I got up to this long row of desks at the lounge, there was one guy manning them and not a soul anywhere else. And he looks at my boarding pass and he looks at my passport and he said, "Welcome, sir." And he points me to the first class lounge.
What?
Or BA Gold or One World, what is it? Emerald?
Emerald, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay then. And I didn't say anything. I just went in and they have the gates. They have gates where you scan your boarding pass. And I'm like, here's where I'm going to get, caught. I tap my boarding pass, the gate opens and through I go. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I got into the Finnair top tier lounge, which I'd never been in before.
Let's take the win. Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, excuse me, I'm not allowed to be in here. Can somebody throw me out, please? No, I was going to go and enjoy every moment of that.
Oh, nice.
And it's a tiny little lounge. It's got a kind of central bar area where they have fairly premium drink brands on. They'll make you whatever cocktail you want. It was great.
Nice.
They had a burger station.
Oh, no
where
way.
somebody with a griddle was making fresh burgers and fries and everything.
That's so cool.
To order. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I need to see that.
Yeah.
Wow,
and I was
amazing.
exhausted because it was like I'd got up at 3 a.m. India time.
India time, yeah.
I'd done 9 hours to Helsinki, maybe even 10 hours to Helsinki. But, what a great place to be exhausted.
Exactly. Wow. See, you don't need status on BA because you get access anyway.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I don't know how. I still want to know how that alchemy happened, but you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah.
it was pretty great. The flight to New York was in premium economy, very busy to the point where I couldn't get my usual preferred window seat. I did opt for another bulkhead in the middle.
Yeah.
Which
is it 242 or
242?
242, yeah.
242, and it was a very, very full flight, as one would expect. To New York, and that flight left at about 4 p.m. Helsinki time, so it was starting to get dark. The flight it had a different vibe to it. A, because it was a sort of twilight night flight. B, because it was very full and busy, so that the sort of atmosphere was different. But again, it was very good food. Again, blazing fast Wi-Fi.
Was it the same 330?
330.
Yeah, so the same product again. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Same product again. So I could just sort of settle in and watch some TV.
Cool.
The Wi-Fi, I had screwed myself because I could get it to work on my laptop, but not my phone. And I realized this. Pro tip for everybody. And maybe it's T-Mobile, maybe it's all airport Wi-Fi. If you use a custom DNS setting on your device,
yes,
it will not work because it will not be able to resolve the first DNS it gets to on the airplane.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it can't. So I use 8.8.8.8, which is Google's DNS.
Yeah. I use
system
Cloudflare, but I didn't know that.
Right. And a lot of people do. It has to be able to connect to the internet to resolve the initial DNS. And it took me like 7 of the 8 hours of flying to work this out and go, I know what it is. It's the freaking, of course, as soon as I take it off, bam, there I'm on,
That's your IFE, basically, your own entertainment, trying to figure out how the Wi-Fi works.
7 hours of tech support. So there, if you take anything from this long and rambling discourse, it's that. If you can't connect to the Wi-Fi kind of launch screen or captive screen, try captive.apple.com. If that doesn't work, make sure you're not using custom DNS.
Actually, I have an app. I mean, let's not delve into it, but I have an app that does that. The only reason it exists, if for some reason I can see I'm on the Wi-Fi, but nothing happens, I open this app and I can try to resolve. It tells me, are you actually connected? And I've used it a lot in airports and in airplanes, but I've never thought about that DNS
thing. Tell us the name
thing.
of the app.
Yeah, I don't. Wi-Fi. Anyway, keep talking.
Well, yeah, when you get it, you'll have to tell us. But yeah, that was. I'm now very aware of that when I fly. And
Wi-Fi login. Wi-Fi login. And you can test. And by the way, it's really funny because it keeps like a memory of the stuff I tried. Is like on air, HIA Qatar, La Compagnie, Accor, which is an hotel, Air France Lounge, Wi-Fi Airport, Hilton Honors Guest. Clearly, every time I have an issue in an airport, in a hotel as well, I do this. But I was not aware of the Wi-Fi login.
Yeah, it was kind of the 17th thing I tried to solve the problem. But again, anyway. I liked that product. It was really good. It was the right balance of nothing was exceptional except the Wi-Fi, but the IFE was good. The food was good. The service was good. It made for a package, a compelling and comfortable package.
I was about to book
at
that.
A good price.
We'll talk that in the next episode or whenever. When I booked Qatar, as I said, to go into to Dubai, I was about to book Finnair. Yeah, because it was like the price was attractive. I just found a great promo deal on Qatar. Basically, I'll tell the story in another time because I haven't done it anyway. I haven't flown it yet. But yeah, I totally. I think Finnair is a good product, and like we said earlier, I mean, earlier, I mean, BA for me is similar. It's like it's good, but it's not. I can beat it with other, and Finnair sometimes beat it. Qatar, of course, beats it every single time. So I'm like, I'm not gonna. I love Finnair. Of course, because I have to. My mother was Finn, so I have maybe also an emotional attachment to it. Yeah. But I like it a lot.
I would genuinely say that. In the hypothetical world where Russian airspace reopens, Finnair would be my choice going to Asia.
Yeah.
If I can't get a decent fare on anybody else, especially Northern Asia, Korea and Japan.
Yeah, Korea and Japan. Yeah, exactly.
It would be a great 100%, experience. 100%. I really liked it. So you get, because they're one world, you land in Terminal 8.
Yep.
At JFK, which is actually, it's really a functional airport these days. Or terminal, I should say. The last few times I've been through there, immigration, I've never had anybody in front of me.
You use a mobile passport again?
I used mobile passport again, whose status now is indeterminate because of. Yeah.
So because we're not gonna tell the story this time. I chose another flight, but when I flew to New York, thanks to your advice, I tried mobile passport, and I was quite amazing.
Yeah, it does work well because it just saves you a few steps.
Yeah. As soon as you arrive, as soon as you land, you submit. And then it gave me even directly the number of the queue was supposed to be in.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, there's a little quirk, but when I'll tell the story, I'll tell the story. But yeah, it's very practical.
It's a good idea. And
but yeah, you're right. Maybe
the only downside is that you're through so quickly, and baggage reclaim at JFK Terminal 8 takes an eternity.
Yeah.
And of course, mine did as well. But it wasn't the end of the world. I got my stuff, and I was. If anybody is traveling to JFK anytime soon, the traffic on the Van Wyck is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah, my experience is the same.
So bad because they're doing whatever the hell they're doing to it. It is so bad. So allow even more time than you ordinarily would.
Agreed. I had the same experience actually. I was in November. You were talking about November.
November, yeah.
So we were basically almost at the same time, probably.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
It's so bad. It's so bad. But all in all, I think it was a very interesting trip. I got to experience 2 new products I haven't experienced before.
That's nice.
Both of which I was very impressed by and would absolutely choose again, which, kind of goes back to the conversation we had at the top of the episode, which is when you're not actively seeking status, you have a world of opportunities and options available to you, and just take them because it doesn't always have to be painful.
Yeah, agreed.
Or at least crap.
Actually, that's what I used to do. I got suddenly I bought into that status game, and it was really nice. I was trying so much at some point that obviously I would get a status and I would enjoy it and I would feel good about it. They know that. That's also why I got caught. But now, since COVID, I just, for, as I said, Finnair, Qatar, the alternative would have been ITA. I almost bought ITA. I'll tell a story also another time. But yeah, it's nice to have that freedom. Now, I get it. I still think a lot of people, because of inertia, because of habit, because of being here in London, will choose BA, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you can, sometimes it's nice to see what's out there because they're very nice products.
Absolutely. And in the next episode, I'll tell the story of another new product I got to experience as well. So, but yeah, I would not be thinking about those if I was an ultra loyalist. Which
I'll ask you after the end of the recording because I'm now curious.
Yeah. No, I think I mentioned it in the last one, but I won't tease it.
Okay, don't tease it. But
yeah, I'm not going to mention anything about the return flight because I can remember absolutely bugger all about it.
Who did you fly with?
Megan met me in New York.
New York, yeah.
And we flew back on BA.
Nice.
The one thing I will say is that that lounge, the Chelsea lounge, whatever the business class lounge in Terminal 8 is, remains good. And you can always find, even though it always feels busy, there's this side area that is nice and quiet.
That's actually when I was there as well. Similar time than you. And for me, it was the first time I went to that lounge. It's clearly the old Admirals, whatever. It clearly was. It used to be an AA lounge. Pretty sure, and they now have these new names and whatever. Yeah, it's a nice lounge. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's all in all a successful project, fun project. Lots of new interesting products as well.
Again, guys, watch the episode on Attache Travel because it has been released for a few weeks now. So the one on India, it's a really nice one.
Thank you.
Again, I liked it a lot. I'm sure, by the way, we have so much overlap. I'm sure pretty much everyone who listens to this podcast has almost seen it already. By the way, one thing about India before I move on, because since we're on the 10-year anniversary, the airline that we kept mentioning a lot, and I don't think I never traveled, but I don't think you've traveled either, is Vistara. Vistara is gone. Vistara is now integrated into Air India. So one of these airlines, we kept thinking we should do it, and we never did, and it died before we even were able to.
It's a shame.
It's a shame. But India is promising. I think, was it Airbus last year? It said that's, of course, we know it's the biggest growth, blah, 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 because that's, sheer numbers of people and the fact, that the economy, the average GDP per capita is increasing. So, of course, at some point, people will be traveling. But I think Airbus said that they're thinking they will get 40,000 deliveries in 20 years per year or something. I don't remember the number. Don't quote me on the number, but like a staggering amount of number of aircraft that India will require and will buy. So, and that's why a lot of airlines, especially the Middle Eastern three, are betting on India because it's hard to have landing rights in India. It's a fight. Yes. But it's a huge, and that's why the Middle Easterners want to be the feeders, of course. And this is why they have all these agreements, because they try to get that. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know when I'll get back, but now that you've explained me about that lounge in Delhi, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. So, look, I'm not going to do the flight back and forth to New York. First of all, because it's BA, and we talked enough about BA. I'll talk about it in another time, even though I could, because to that point I said earlier, the flight was nothing special. And I'm like, well, if you also don't give me status at some point, I'm like, I'm going to fly JetBlue, but JetBlue has a code share with BA. Anyway. So because it's a 10-year anniversary, I'm going to do something throwback, something that a few friends actually have told me, you never explain. So before I do that, I'll launch a little throwback in terms of music.
Your attention, please. Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
That was a nice intro.
Wow, that was so great.
That was a nice intro. So actually, I created an airport voice. I think it was episode 48. And if you guys want to have a look at this at the end.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
Well, how did you do that? This is pre-AI.
I had to play with filters to make it the sound having an echo, as in like in an airport. It was difficult. Now with AI, it would be so easy, but it was really fun. And I did episode 103. That's where you had your break. You were not in the show, so you had your brother. So I had a play with the airport. These are the 4 episodes. I had a lot of fun. So I played that. The airport voice is telling me that you missed your plane. And I think then in episode 104, I think it was with Dog from the next trip. And I said that any Alex left unattended may be removed or destroyed. And episode 105, I think it was, I told the airport voice to grab me a latte or something. And episode 106 to Maui, when you came back, I think, and this is because COVID was starting, I think there was no airport voice. And I said, hello. Oh, yeah, there's no one in the airport or something like that. So if you want to listen just to the first 30 seconds of these of the episodes, guys, for a throwback, it's fun. Anyway, so I just said earlier that I'm not going to fly Emirates to Dubai as I've been doing for a decade now, to go to Dubai for a conference I go every year to. I'd done one exception. I think 2017 I'd been with BA. I'm going to fly Qatar. I'll tell that, of course, when I've done the flights. Although, again, I think I've explained Qatar many times. This is a product you still haven't tried, by the way, which is so surprising for you.
Yeah, I know.
So, because I'm not going to fly Emirates, I'm going to talk about Emirates because I'm going to finally discuss that Emirates first class.
Oh, yes.
So, first, let's put it in the right context. It was 2019. So, yeah, of course, it's 6 years old now. December 2019. Let's say 5 years old because it's December 2019. It was an era where we were still flying like a madman. I think in 2019, I had done like 140 flights. Jeez. And I think in 2018, I had done like maybe 200 or something. And just to make the context, I had done like this. I think I went to London to Lisbon. This is in a span of 4 weeks, I think. London to Lisbon, Lisbon to JFK, JFK to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Singapore, Singapore to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Heathrow, and then Zurich, and then back to Singapore with, again, Emirates or via Dubai, and then to Manila from Singapore and back to Singapore and back to Dubai, and then to Geneva, and then I did that trip. So really, exactly. That was a different era. So I think it was in one of the episodes post-COVID, I told about this long flight with Singapore Airlines through Frankfurt. God, I love Frankfurt, right? That hasn't changed. With that Jules Verne retro-futuristic first class, which, like levers and cords and, and then I'd gone to Singapore. I'd done my talk and then, I was an MC actually, plus a consulting gig. And then I wanted to come back with Cathay. I mean, it was all point and see, the budgets where clients were far bigger, let's say, than I have nowadays, and flew to Hong Kong with Cathay Pacific to catch the Hong Kong to London. Have you flown Cathay Pacific since the pandemic or not?
Yes.
Oh,
when we filmed our Hong Kong episode.
Oh, yes. Okay.
We flew Cathay.
Okay, because I haven't, and. So I think I went to the pier, of course, that day. I had a very, very brief time, but it was just enough to go to the pier to say I've been there and then left again to get like one of the beers. Betsy, was it called? Yeah, Betsy.
Yeah.
And I was in first class. And I remember because it was 2019, I was like, oh, there's a new first class that will come in 2021. Of course, we know what happens since the new first class will happen, I think, in 2026. But anyway, it was a very nice first class. Guys, it's because of the 10-year. I'm going to talk about first class only. I know, smallest violin, that I don't fly first class a lot anymore. And there was no door or whatever, just the Q suite had doors back in the day. Back in the day. We're talking like 30 years ago or something. And I was in 1A. The one thing I will say, and this is the reason I want to point it out, when I flew Singapore, did that first class it was not the current first class, again, the pre-retro-futuristic first class in the 380. The product was great, obviously. The crew was absent, I said, especially in the second flight. Compared to that, 5 years later, I still remember the name of the crew, the Cathay Pacific crew, who was my flight attendant. I remember his face. I remember his gestures. I remember how he kneeled when he was talking to me, which is something I feel uncomfortable when someone kneels in front of a seat. But anyway, Ricky, I still remember his name. Wow. And I don't have any notes about that, right? So meaning he must have been the best flight attendant I ever encountered. And I will say, this is surprising. I mean, we might disagree with that, but for me, in terms of the quality of the staff, I always prefer generally Singapore over Cathay Pacific. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just cultural, I don't know. But I will say that I had never, and I have never since, had such a great interaction with a flight attendant than Ricky. They had just introduced their new food service. So instead of, new refurbishment, they were working on a soft product. And he was very proud telling me about the new food and new things they were introducing. And it was a fantastic, absolutely fantastic flight, right? The seat is, I think you've done it, but the seat is reminiscent of what BA First is. Probably a bit larger, but you have the same angle and the same kind of wooden side when you can put your drinks, and kind of similar. It was very agreeable. I never was a fan of doors, as you guys know. So, and back then, by the way, it was not a default. So I really enjoyed it, but especially because of the food. I remember was really good. They had just again introduced that new food concept, I think they used to call it. It was really, have you flown it? Do you like that?
Yes.
That seat?
It was very, very comfortable.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And I think they were giving, it was Bose QC35, which, they used to be a staple.
Indeed.
He's showing them to me. I still prefer Singapore's Bang & Olufsen, but I mean, it was an amazing experience, right? It's the only time I've ever flown first class with Cathay, because I was lucky to have I was mixing 4 clients, I think, and with all the budgets, I was able to construct that crazy flight from London, Lisbon, New York. I stayed 22 hours, flew Singapore, stayed a day and a half, then Hong Kong, back to London. Really fantastic experience. At that point in time, it was a toss, what is the best first class I've ever done? Is it Emirates first, which you've done as well, or is it that Cathay first? It was not Singapore first. I'm sorry, Singapore loyalists. Maybe the new Singapore first class, I've seen the picture, is pretty amazing, but no, it was really incredible. I remember as well thinking back then, the Wi-Fi is pretty fast. I'm sure that nowadays it would say, wow, it's horribly slow. But anyway, by the way, I forgot to say, because that's maybe for you. Starlink, I said that it's being rolled out. You know which airline in Asia is rolling it out? Zip Air.
Oh, how interesting.
You have no leg room, but super fast Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Anyway, so amazing experience. They also have I remember that because I kept it. The same type of eye mask that Emirates has, and Emirates is my favorite eye mask. So really, Cathay Pacific, at that point in time, we're in November 2019, I'm like, okay, you're the winner. I've never done such a bit. And I've done Asiana, Thai, Qantas, Emirates, Etihad, Korean Air. I'm forgetting few. So I was lucky to have done in that decade quite a lot. And I was like, yeah, that's the best. A few days later, the next week, I flown back to Singapore. I stayed 10 days, and I flown Singapore Airlines from Singapore to Manila. It was their brand new, back then, Dreamliner -10, and they just had introduced, these new clamshell business class seats.
Those are great.
And I remember saying then, this is a great product, and the team is great, but of course I'm not in first. So still at that point in time, I was like, well, you know what, Cathay Pacific. And I was thinking, Alex, telling me about Cathay Pacific for so long. Remember, guys, I only flown the first time Cathay Pacific in 2017. So for me, I have a very short history of Cathay Pacific. So, because you said about security at Helsinki, I remember that coming back from Manila with Singapore Airline to Singapore, I had to do security on arrival at Singapore, which means they do not trust the Philippines when it comes to security. Right. I've lived in the Philippines, guys. This is not a diss against the Philippines, but it's always interesting. You're like, what? Security now? But I'm not transferring, right? Anyway, all that brings me to the big flights. I'll go back to London, stay, I think, 5 days, and then I'm going to Japan. And in my head, at that point in time, I was saying, this is the last flight of 2019. It's going to cap off 3 years of great flying. I had no idea. Of course I knew. No, I had no idea of Wuhan. Mm-hmm. But I put all this up. So I had so many miles at Emirates on purpose. I had banked them that I said, you know what? I want to do this new first class seat. And I was looking for a long time, where are the routes? And there were very few routes back in the day. And the longest you could ever do, and it's still, I think, the case today, is Haneda to Dubai. It's 11, almost 12 hours in that seat. I'm like, I'm not going to do a flight for 2 hours in such a seat. I'm going to do the longest I actually can. Of course, I went to Japan, was there for a client, but then I met. Actually, I met Alexandra, Avgeek's Alex. See Alexandra. Now I don't say Avi Alex, I say Avgeek's Alex. She was mentioning you because she had, I was like, how was your flight? And she said, as Alex would say, it was nice. I was like, she had gone through Frankfurt and the layover was less than 40 minutes. This is so Frankfurt. She ran to catch her flight. She was telling me that she had been the only passenger who made it. All the others, that because it was either not running fast enough or didn't make the flight, they had to be rebooked. She was the only person that transferred to the Tokyo flight, which tells you again, guys, at Frankfurt, do something. You cannot give 40 minutes to transfer at Frankfurt. Oh, that's also the time at Tama. You remember Tama, Alex? Mm-hmm. They just had their Michelin star. I think they still have it. And that's where I met Mark Ronson.
Oh, yeah.
That was really fun. I'm just reminiscing now because it feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it really does.
I had, of course, my quirk here. I had flown into Narita. Everybody still thinks it's silly, but for me, it's got this emotional value of flying to Narita and then taking the train. But of course, if you want to have the 777, which has this new first class, you had to fly from Haneda. So I went to Haneda. I had chauffeur in Japan. At Emirates, is only offered to first class passengers. You cannot have it if you're in business class. White gloves, the door opens automatically. English very good as well. And it was a fantastic, of course, opening to my trip. I arrived at Haneda. They just had introduced the electronic immigration exit gates, so it was actually faster than usual as well. I went to I think it was a Sakura lounge, the first class Sakura lounge at Haneda. It was, of course, very nice. But you have views on the aprons, so it's always nice. I remember taking a shower. So, Emirates has the thing where they board. I know that you always hated that. They board first, last. So the departure time was at, I think, just past midnight, maybe 10 after midnight or something. At 11:30, I was still taking a shower. No, at 11:40, I was taking a shower. Because they had told me, well, you can board 5 minutes prior. So I was like, I was like, okay, I'll take a shower. There's no shower in the 777, and I had just had a long day because it was midnight. I took a shower. I remember getting out of the lounge with not even 15 minutes to spare, and I made it even without running. That somebody actually walked me to the plane, of course, like an Emirates staff. And the first thing you notice when you enter that 777 is we've seen doors, not ceiling high, but almost very high doors. The latest iteration, I think, of Emirates is like that, but I think Asiana has it. And we've seen, of course, the Q suite has a pretty high doors. But nothing can prepare you to this because it's not high doors. They're like cubes. Like they're 3 lanes. It's only 3. It's a 1-1-1. There's 2 seats on one side, 2 seats in the middle, 2 seats on the other side. That's it. The 6 seats. But the fact that they're like enclosed rooms, you arrive and you see basically 3 blocks that are beautifully designed. I just said to ceiling, maybe, there's a small clearance, but it feels that it's to ceiling. And there were already the new colors of Emirates. It was less tacky, and I'm sorry, Emirates, than it used to be. There's this big tree that ornates the middle block, I would call it, when 1E is. And still, you still have these hues of gold, but it's not gold. It's more like a bronze. It's very tasteful compared to.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the pictures now. It's just stunning.
If you find that picture when you look from the door A, the first door, you can see this kind of blockish appearance of it. It's not blockish. It's not Minecraft, guys. When I say blockish, it's really nicely done, rounded. But you don't see the seats. Basically, that's what I'm saying. You see like 3 lanes of doors.
Yeah.
That's it, right? That's very strange feeling to have that because you expect to see seats and you don't see any of it. I was in 1A. Here's your seat, and the first thing you cannot not see it. The first thing you see, because the door is open at that point, is the seat itself. It's massive. It's like it's really
throne.
It's exactly. It's a throne, and I'm like, am I in Star Trek? Am I in a holodeck of Star Trek? Am I in a meditation room? Am I in of course, I'm in a luxury hotel, obviously, but am I into like some of these, when I say meditation room, where they give you like, headphones and they send you waves to calm you down. And it's a weird, or maybe in a manicure room or like a spa. It's very, very big. The screen in front of you, I don't think I had at that point at least seen such a big screen. It's bigger than my TV at home, at least back then. Now I've upgraded my TV at home, but it's huge.
Yeah.
You have the stuff that you have at Emirates because you've done it as well. You have, the vanity mirror in front of you with some cosmetics. You have the basket. You have the notebook. You have the pen. All better integrated than used to be. What you didn't have, and you have now, binoculars.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing right as you're describing this. I'm on Emirates.com and I'm doing the
360?
the 3D immersive thing, and I can see the binoculars on the desk. And I was hoping that you were going to talk about them.
So they give you binoculars. Yeah, binoculars are on the side of the table. They're there. And I'm joking actually with the flight attendant. She was Akiko, I think that was her name. Maybe I'm wrong. And I was like, it's the middle of the night. What am I going to see with binoculars? But anyway, it's part of the thing that they give you. I'll come back to the binoculars in a minute because it's interesting. So at that time, I'm alone. There's no one else. I'm like, it's hard to say if there's anyone else because you're in a room. It's literally, so guys, when I say room, it's like, it's not only floor to ceiling, it closes. You have your own ceiling. It's not the ceiling of the cabin. It's your own ceiling.
Wow.
That'll come into play in a minute. So it's really hard to say unless there was somebody passing me by, going to the seat behind me. But the other row on the other side of the aircraft, let's say I think it's 1K, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. So I'm alone. And actually over here, there were 2 cabin crew saying that they were quite happy that no one had been upgraded that day. Mm-hmm. I can hear that, so I'm laughing, and she looks at me and says, so no one is upgraded? She says, yeah, because yesterday, like, they upgraded everyone, and this was full. And I'm like, it's going to be a quiet flight. I'm very happy. So I ask her, I'm like, so 1E across, that's the middle aisle, across of me. I'm sorry because I go to many details, but this is important for the story.
Of course.
1A has a door on your right, 1E has a door on your left. So if you were a couple, you'd probably choose that because even though you're not next to each other, you can actually see each other from afar because it's still like there's a nail in between, but you can see. But then 2A has a door on the right as well, but 2E has a door on the right, so that would be more secluded. The point I'm making here is that is the only seat I could see across, and I said, so there's no one's going to sit there, right? She's like, no. I'm like, can I go take a look? And the reason I went is that you remember, Alex, these middle seats have the virtual windows.
Yes.
And holy cow.
I've always wanted to hear about this.
We are on the ground, Haneda. It's night, it's midnight, but because, of course, the lighting of over the apron, you can see it. I knew, the thing is, I knew it was. So, of course, my head tells me this is not real, but man, it's perfect. It's just perfect. And this is where the joke comes in. I'm there and I'm like, I look at the table on the side, there's a pair of binoculars. I'm like, what? So I ask her, I said, is it really useful? You can look at, he said, yeah. I'm like, nah, yeah. Well, I don't know if it's just a thing. Because it was a night flight, I was not able to try to look at virtual screens with binoculars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would actually say the middle seat, it'll come into play a bit later, the middle seat is probably the best. Because of the curvature of the aircraft, on my side, 1A, and of course on the other, which I didn't go on, let's say 1K and 2K, of course your ceiling, your cabin curbs at some point. The one in the middle is a cube and you have more, it's bigger. You have more space. So on both sides of if you're still on your 360 view, on both sides of the screen, there's a bar, 2 bars. So you have, again, like Emirates does, there's a bar even in business class, like with your Perrier and Evian and what's not, and whiskey and so on. You have storage everywhere. I mean, you have storage on the side, on the armrest, in front of you, on the side of the seat. You don't have any overhead bins, obviously, because the thing goes to the ceiling. So, but you can actually store very easily a carry-on. When you sat, you can look at this. Looking back on your side of the seat, you have a full height mirror, so you can actually look at yourself being dressed up. Behind that, when you open, there's a wardrobe, and you can put more than just one little your jacket. Let's say your suit jacket. You could put like a lot of stuff in there. You could put like a coat plus your jacket plus maybe hang your trousers when you are changing into pajamas. It's an actual wardrobe. It's just like what? I was still discovering that was obviously on the ground because I was playing with everything. The seat, I think there's 10 buttons to change the seat. So you know how it is nowadays, especially there's more and more, sadly, there's departure and landing, which is very straight, lounge, which is more like angled so you can watch a TV, and bed in business or first. This one you can do whatever you want with it. It even goes sideways, man. It goes like because there's room on both sides. The point is, when you're sleeping, the bed goes mostly in the middle, whereas where you are not sleeping, to give you more room to move around, it sticks to the side of the aircraft.
Oh, I see.
But you can do it manually if you want as well. You can move the seat on the side, which I don't think it's not. I've done as well Qantas first class. Qantas first class has this Dr. Evil swivel seat. This is not it, right? This is not. It doesn't swivel around, but you can move it aside. So yeah, again, and it's really tastefully designed. It's never been my complete, and we discussed that many times because I've discussed over these 10 years way too many times about Emirates, and I'm probably boring you guys with that. But it's never been my preferred, palette. But I'll take this one over the previous one.
Yeah, this one looks a lot more refined.
Yeah, and you see that currently the new business class they've introduced, which is the same as before, but they went with that new palette, which is less aggressive over all the entire product in premium economy as well. This is where they started it in that first class. It's really, honestly, it's really nice. So the door is not automated. She made a point about it because she's like, she probably had my file and she knew that I had flown first class before, but I had never flown that one. And on first class Emirates, on the one that you've done, the door, you have a button and you can close it and open it. On this one, it's not. She was almost apologizing for it. I'm like, come on.
I actually prefer the manual, yeah.
Have you seen the thing? Interestingly, when you close the door, there's a second opening a bit more in front, which is small, but it allows you to have the door closed and then to give you service through that opening. Because that little...
I can see it. Yeah, I was wondering what that was.
So the table, the tray, which is not even a tray, it's a full table. It's so big, man. The tray, of course, is next to that opening from the AL to the cabin. Let's call it it's an actual cabin. And they could actually deliver. I didn't do that. I had the door open the whole time. Plus, I wanted to interact with them. It feels like you would see like a hand putting like a tray and disappearing. I'm like, come on, I want to talk to them. But again, the staff at Emirates, I always love them because they get your tone of voice. And by the way, the other guy, I forgot his name, it was Egyptian, and we had a lot of fun. They were really nice. They understood, okay, this is a once in a lifetime type of thing. You probably use miles, and they were playful, respectful, not like, but playful. And I was playful as well. So I was really agreeable. It's really like, man, it's like nothing you've ever seen. I had like years ago, I had more than 16 years ago, I had a back surgery. No, nothing big, but I had a back surgery. And I have flare-ups once every 2 years. Not big, but it can hurt a little bit when I was sitting there. And I had that throughout my stay in Japan. Because of that seat, I didn't feel anything. Like anything, especially in the lounge position, because even though I have these 10 or 11 buttons to move the seats around, you have presets. You can create your own, by the way, but you have presets. And the lounge position, which it's very agreeable. And then I learned, because I didn't research that back then, that this is called coming back to Star Trek, not an anti-gravity, but a zero-gravity seat. And I think these are things that I think high-end cars have them. For long drives, when the seat is made in a way that not one part of your body has more pressure than another, so it gives you, clever. It distributes the pressure points. Look, I don't know about the science of it. It just works because I had back pain and lower back pain for the whole 10 days and nothing. When I was sat, when I was asleep, when I was taking off, landing, nothing. And trust me, it's not the champagne they give me. Right? It's nothing you've ever seen. And then the fun bit, there's a very, very, very big screen in front of you, which you cannot reach it from where you're sat, no matter how you try. It's still a touch screen. I'm like, why did they bother? Yeah, but it's still a touch screen. You can still touch it. This massive OLED screen, you can still touch it. But you have, your iPad on the side. It's an additional screen, not my iPad. Theirs. It's sometimes I'm like, what is that? I mean, I put the route, the flight map on that one. Yeah. And they have two other screens on that seat. And one is on the side. It says on the kind of the screensaver of that specific screen on the side, on the wall next to your seat when you sat in either departure, takeoff position or lounge position. You can see it. It says, explore a world of light. I'm like, okay, I'm going to explore a world of light. So I press on it. There's 5 or 6 physical buttons, and then it's a touchscreen as well. So I go to temperature control. It's really nice because you're fully enclosed, you can decide your own temperature, which is sometimes I like colder more than hotter in general, so I can do whatever I want. But it's the light, man. It doesn't make any sense. You open that, and there's a prism, like a circle, like you would see, like on your Mac or on Photoshop or whatever tool you use when you grade pictures. You can choose whatever color you want. It's like guys, you might have that at home, like with Philips Hues and that thing. So you have, I think, 12 preset colors from warm to cold. You can put the room in red, in orange, in yellow, in green, in blue, in light blue, in royal blue, in gray. And then you can play into whatever you want. And you can, of course, change the hue, the intensity. You can do whatever you want, man. So I was playing, we're still on the ground at that point, but I'm playing with all the colors. Like it's a discotheque in this. This is why I'd rather give it away to the staff that it's something that I will probably never experience again, because I'm a kid and there's no one else to watch me because there's no other passenger. I'm like, I'm going to touch all of the buttons, all of them at the same time and see if I can reset that seat or something. I'm changing the colors. And during the night, I'm skipping, not to take too long, but during the night, I would put, when I was watching TV, like a kind of dark bluish. And it's fantastic because you have enough light to see what's next to you, like full darkness, but you could sleep with it. You have even presets for the television. You can say, when I watch a movie from the IFE, which is the same IFE as Emirates has in all their aircraft. Of course, it's much bigger, but it was the same back then, at least. We're talking 5 years ago, guys. But you can decide a pre-selection of color that changes the hue to not be disturbing. Of course, there's no glare because it's a matte screen, but still to make it like a cinematic experience, I guess, or something.
Wow.
You have on the top, at the ceiling, you have a set of lights, which are not like just light bulbs. They're actually designer lights that can change colors even individually. When you switch everything off, or you put on the lowest setting, if you want to have like I did, like this very quiet, dark blue, then you see the stars. You have stars on the ceiling of the aircraft.
That's so cool.
You have stars on the freaking floor of... you don't see, there's a moquette, there's a tapestry, and then suddenly when the lights are killed, you're like, oh, are they? Yeah, there's little stars on the ground here as well. Now, man, of course it's pure luxury and pure decadence, but it's quite something, man. I've never seen anything like that. The cabin itself, and again, you can seclude yourself fully, but the cabin itself is lit in a kind of orangey, you've probably seen that in the picture, the orangey hue, which is very elegant to some. I don't know why it works very well, especially because it's a night flight, so it's not bright and in your face. You can go to the loo very easily. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's very clever. Of course, they're clever, and of course, they paid a lot of money to create that. When you're, let's say, asleep and you close the door, so you're enclosed and you're fully enclosed, you can see from within your cabin, and of course, each of the 6 cabins, you can see the status of the lavatories. You can know if it's
nice.
You don't have to
Smart.
first, step out and say, oh shit, I'll come back later. No, of course it was always free because I'm alone basically, right? So yeah, man, I've never seen something like this. Even the buttons look like Star Trek. Of course, some of it probably has been either overtaken by other maybe products in the past 5 years. I'm sure that but what I'm hearing, when you look at 1 mile, 1 mile at a time, the famous blogger, he always flies in first class. In 2024, he made just December 24, he made a ranking of the best first class. He still considers this one as the best first class he's ever flown.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm not relying exclusively on him, but I'm sure that I don't think anyone can just match this. Not because they can't, but because it would be darn too expensive. It makes no sense to have something like that in the air.
Well, exactly.
But what I really appreciated, especially coming off from Japan, is that there's an attention to detail about everything. And I'm like, because, Japan is very detail oriented. And when you are like in this room, your own cabin, like you're in these boats that were going through the US, it take 12 days back into the day. This is what is reminiscent of. Everything is, okay, the buttons, the way they were placed when in different positions of the seat, everything is at reach. It seems like everything is evident. You don't have to, oh, how do I do that again? Everything is just, the UX of that cabin is just perfect. The food was obviously great. The caviar was obviously great. I took as well a course of sushi because we were leaving from Japan. I wanted to test them. And even after, how long did I stay? Maybe 10 days in Japan back then. And I had my share of, like you, when you go, like all the foods we can. It was extremely high quality. I was surprised. Like, this is not airplane food. This is actually proper sushi. This is also why I ordered it very quickly. I said, I don't want them to stay in the fridge or whatever for the 12 hours. That was, everything in that seat. The way the button, I know, I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting too details. I promise it's soon over. It's a torture for some of you, but the way the button clicks, every button clicks, the weight of the button when you touch it, everything falls into place. Everything seems like it's just logical.
I admire that so much.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pleasure, basically. It's a pleasure. The table, the big tray, let's call it tray, but at this point it becomes a table because it's so massive, man. I was surprised how it is massive. It looks massive. It looks thick. It looks, hefty. But you move it with one finger. It comes out and everything is just like, okay, no forcing. I mean, she did it for me. I wanted to do it. Like, don't let me do it. Then I played with it. Like, I close it again and open it again, close it again, open it. Oh, it's just, And then and subtle things, like on the side table, you feel like it's the same material all over the side, all around this room. No. They know that these are the places where you're going to put stuff. So you don't see it. It's impossible to see. But if you put your phone, it's anti-slippery. Nothing will move. So if you put a glass, it won't move. And there's even like you could feel a little bit further down, there's a slight enclosure, like a little dip where they put their glass, they put the nuts. Everything is thought like, it's just crazy. It's just like...
It must have been so interesting to design that product.
Yeah. Having the mandate from Emirates, I don't know who designed it. I'm sure I could look it up, but I didn't. And say, okay,
go nuts.
We want really to go like far and above everybody else and create an experience in itself. And then coming up, and also with the constraint of the cabin of a 777 in the front, you cannot build. This is perfection. I can't say anything wrong about the product, and hard and soft, man.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some people will say some other, Air France First, apparently the food is the best in the world. By the way, you cannot get Air France First by points. You need to be already gold in Air France to being able to access the Air France First. So you cannot,
I didn't know that.
But yeah, if you can, guys, if you ever have, I was lucky to have banked so many miles back in the day. And I was planning for that, it's been like a year and a half. I was like, the product was announced and I was like, I'm not upgrading myself. I was lucky to fly business class because my clients would pay business class. So I was accumulating the miles and the miles and the miles. I'm like, at some point I need to make that Haneda trip. And I did it. And I was, it hurts when you see all those miles disappear in one go.
Yeah.
Because as well, I don't remember why specifically, but basically I had to do the entire trip back in first. So I was in first in the Haneda bit, but also in the 380 afterwards to London.
I see.
Right? So my miles really disappeared in the ether. And I was like, but this was absolutely worth it. What is interesting is that obviously the seat next to me is not next because we're talking about two different cabins, was free. So she tells me, do you want your bed over here? So this is your room and this is your room to sleep. I'm like, yeah. So I was eating in one and watching television, and then she prepared the bed in the other, and then I transferred, and she already had put like this dimmed blue, I told you, light, and and I was there, and I had changed in my pajamas, which I didn't have to go to the lavatory for because you can close the door. So I changed, and I slept in the other room, and I slept like a good 6-7 hours. I slept like a baby. The bed is. I've never felt the bed so soft in the air because usually they're either too stiff. And of course, you don't touch anything. Don't worry, it's fine. You can move in all directions you want. And I woke up and I remember there was a button. I don't remember exactly because it's been 5 years, but it's not that it lights up. It gradually comes up. The light comes back up. So it's with you getting awake, it's just perfect, man. It's just. And then of course, I don't know how. Maybe as soon as you're awake, but. Enough awake maybe you get a knock because of course they won't open the door. Like, do you want coffee already? Like, how do they know? You know, like they knew already that. I don't know, but it was maybe they had a camera. By the way, I'm not sure. It's bigger. The one in the middle, so I would say the one in the middle is bigger. I did still want to land on the 1A because we're landing early mornings. We can already see, but I was able to look across. I could basically see from my viewpoint both sides of the windows because on the virtual windows were displaying, of course, the windows opposite. Because the little camera is outside placed correctly. And I could basically see both sides of Dubai, and plus the front camera had that as well. So it was like a full immersion into landing. It was so just cool. Yeah, it's so I felt you feel like I'm a celebrity or something. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. I'm not a celebrity, so I don't know how it feels like, but it's just beyond amazing. I've never ever felt something like that, man. Never.
Wow.
I will finish by saying I'm sure I forgot a lot of things. Yeah, the bathroom was great, etc. I mean, there's other stuff. It's not, of course, the 380, but everything is really. The service was fantastic. Everything was great. To tell you at which point you're private, when we land, I just had this 360 experience of landing in Dubai and seeing all things from all the windows I had at my disposition. So I prepared to leave the aircraft. And then at that point after 12 hours of flying, I realized there was another passenger with me.
Really? Wow.
She was in 1K, I think it's K, so basically the third
opposite,
row, opposite. I'd never realized there was another passenger the whole time, ever. I don't know if she had boarded before me, after me, because I was still maybe playing with all the buttons that I didn't pay attention, or maybe she had become before. She was actually a celebrity. She's an opera singer. I'm not going to say the name, obviously, but she just come from a tour because of course you're waiting in front of the door as you do, and she's like, "Oh, hi," and I'm like, "Hi," you chat, and "Oh, what were you in Japan for?" And she says, "Oh, singing." When you're singing, so she was not boasting or whatever, but it was interesting. I'm not an opera person. My better half sings opera, but I know nothing about it. So I Googled afterwards, oh, okay, yeah, she released that. Okay, wow. But yeah, but to tell you at which point it's so private because you have these cabins that you don't see. Probably if the cabin is 6 people are there, you of course realize there's someone. But at that point, I would have just closed the door and you would feel completely alone because you're in a fully enclosed cabin. Like you'd be back in the day we were, on the seas going from... Was it Portsmouth to New York, or was it? And of course it's not as big, but it's just nothing like this exists, man. Nothing like this.
Wow.
And to this day, I don't think anything can beat that.
I now have a new bucket list item.
You should, yeah. The horrible thing is that right after that, so I'm in Concourse A, I'm in the lounge for I think a couple of hours, and then I'm connecting to that 380 to London. I'm still in first class. And I entered that first class, like, this is shit.
Yeah.
This looks old. This
That's
is
the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, no. Plus, I always said they changed their policies. We're talking a long time ago already. I'm talking a long time ago, they used to give slippers and everything, no matter what the route. But since I think 2015, maybe they on the day, basically a day flight Dubai to London, they don't give you nothing.
No,
because I just had everything before. I was like, why I don't have slippers?
Yeah.
Of course, it was a night flight. Of course, it's different. But I'm saying, yeah, it's horrible because now I've been lucky to do Emirates first in the 380 last year, and it's still very nice. Don't misunderstand me, everyone, but. Coming off that one, nothing looks good. Like nothing. You're like, can you return to Haneda? I'm staying. I'm staying. I'm staying.
Wow.
I think, So coming back to the point of Ricky in Cathay Pacific, I will say on the pure staff, flight attendant, probably Ricky was the best I ever had. But overall, Emirates, that one is, there's nothing like it. And all the others are very good. I'm not saying I've not done the residence, for instance. I don't know if you've ever done it.
No.
I've not done the new Singapore first, for instance. And I was disappointed by the first class staff during my flights. But this, I mean, I landed, and I think I wrote you. I don't. Probably it's in the WhatsApp queue somewhere from the past. I probably said, "Well, I can stop flying now."
Yeah, exactly. You've reached nirvana.
Nirvana, right? It's just, yeah. So there you go, guys. I finally. So in my book, this is the best. Then I'm not going to make a ranking because it's useless. But I will say, if you ever have the chance, if you have lots of miles on your credit card or on. If you're lucky with Emirates, if you can do it,
one day
do it. And I'm sure there is probably a way to do like a, 2-3 hour. They have these weird routes like you go to Colombo, or I'm sure I haven't looked at it, but I wanted the longest I could ever do.
Of course, you want to get bang for your buck.
But if you just want to try, I'm sure it's like I've done when I tried the Swiss first. I did Geneva up to Zurich in Swiss first. I lasted in first class for the all of 20 minutes, but still I did it. But do it, man. So there you go. You have Qatar and Emirates first to do if you can achieve that at some point.
One day.
That would be, one day. Exactly. It's nice to have aspirations, Alex. We have aspirations. I don't know. That's it, basically.
Amazing.
There you go, guys.
Amazing.
We'll go back to more normal program. Because I will say it's true that first of all, I think we used to be more about in the last few episodes that we've done, we talk a lot about the travel itself and not only the experience of being in the aircraft, and I like that. This was a throwback where basically I was only talking about a seat, but it's true that also we were experiencing a bit of the same, so it was a bit starting to be a bit saying the same thing. Yeah, well, I've flown again Club Suite, or I've flown again Premium Economy in BA, and you're like, at some point you're running out of stuff to say about the same product. So hopefully,
it's nice to have a few, curveballs.
So thank you, Alex, for doing Finnair. Now I'm very envious of that. I still want to do that new Finnair business, the thing that doesn't move.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully,
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah. Anyway, on that, Alex, let's play the. Do you have any other thing you wanted to add before we close this 10-year episode? I mean, it's nothing special, but
it's a huge milestone.
Yeah, it is actually. So, do you know where you're flying next then?
Nowhere. I have nothing booked, and it's a glorious feeling.
That's nice, actually. Yeah, as I told, maybe. I have Madrid next week, but it could be cancelled. But Madrid next week with, BA. You call the second. And Qatar too. So, sorry, Emirates. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'll tell you why I fly Qatar and not Emirates. Even though I would have said that next time, is because I've looked at the pricing here. I went through my 10 year of flying Emirates and I said, okay, I've always done that flight. When did I book it? How much was it costing me? The flight was sub 2,000 in business class, where I return always the same period, early in the year. And booking with 2-3 months in advance. The flight used to be sub 2,000. This year it was about 4,000.
Wow. I noticed they're getting very expensive.
I'm not paying that for us. And I had a promo. I'll tell the story next time how to fly Qatar, because it's a strange route. It's not from London, basically. And there you go. So next time, whatever that is, Alex.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Happy 10-year anniversary,
Happy
buddy.
10 years.
Safe travels. No, so that's you. I say happy travels, and you
Safe
say
travels.